Hello, welcome back to our talks. This episode is a very special one because this episode is episode number 52, which means this is a whole year of me doing podcasts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the first ever episode I recorded. So I have it here on my phone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, and throughout the episode I'm just going to give background kind of information on it, okay? So here we go. Hello, welcome to channel Al Talks. This is my first podcast, one of many, I hope. And indeed, it was one of many. We've gotten to an entire year of podcasts, which is pretty cool, I think. To be honest, I didn't really think I was going to go beyond 10 podcasts when I recorded this first one. This came out on 12th of January. I kind of took the same approach with this as I did with the hold on, this computer's running low on power. Now I took the same approach as I did, but the first time I did comedy. When I got up on stage, you know what I'm saying, if I'm not going to talk within the next 30 seconds, that wasn't going to happen. So that's the approach I basically took. But let's get back to the video now. This channel will be mainly to chronicle my start into stand-up, which I started a little while ago. But before we get into that, I'd like to just say how I got into comedy. How it all started was just watching TV shows, various comics. My favorite back in the day used to be 8 out of 10 Cats on the BBC. I haven't watched this video in God knows how long. I know I was very nervous recording it, and it was very difficult to kind of look into the camera and talk. I've gotten used to it more and more now, but even if I go back through my notes, you know, I got a couple of pages here of notes, and you know, in the first episode notes I had, how did I get into stand-up, funny comics that I like. That's all the notes I had for that episode. You see Jimmy Carr, Sean Locke. That was a great TV show, still is. I watch it from time to time. That kind of got my comedy juices flowing. And then later on I started watching various comics on Netflix, and the ones that stood out to me were Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, Ari Shaffir, Duncan, Brian Redban. Basically, Joe Diaz, I think, is one of the best comics going. Even I still think that Joey Diaz is one of the best. Yeah, it was basically like, you know, it was Rogan's group of friends and him being friends with Joey Diaz, and then all this kind of group of comics, how I kind of really got into their comedy and their style of comedy and such. Even though he doesn't think himself, he always puts himself down. He says that none of the work I ever do is good. But in my opinion, I think it's one of the best. Other comics that I enjoy would be Bill Burr, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, and Tom's wife, Christina. Other another comic. That pause you see in there is a pause you've probably seen in the podcast a couple of times. I just kind of had like a kind of a brain fart, and I kind of had to stop the video and just kind of reconsole and come back into it. There's a couple of pauses in this, but as you know, as I got more into more episodes, recording more episodes, it kind of went away. But this, you know, it's really is funny looking back at this now, to be honest. Comic whose work I greatly enjoy is Bobby Lee. His podcast, Tiger Belly, is great. I will try and watch as many episodes as possible. I love his guests. I love the way how it's produced. enjoy is Gabriel Iglesias. That pause there, I had to go and look up, like I said, because all I had in the notes was, funny comics, and it was kind of, because that's only about 2 minutes into the podcast. It's a 9 minute long podcast, the first one anyway. And so I was like, okay, so let me just. Hold on. Yes, also known as Fluffy. Fluffy always puts out quality content. All his stand-up shows are great. I've watched all of them. They're very funny. I also have this very kind of monotone voice because, to be honest, after the point that it gets to there in the podcast, I was just going to cut it off and say, no, I'm not doing this, because I was really struggling to kind of talk in this, and I found it very, very difficult. But we continue on anyway. He's very creative, man. He never stops working. Another comic I really enjoy, George Lopez. Everybody knows him. He's been around in the business for years. Other comics, another comic, Hannibal Buress, who I think has another quick little Google search there for more comics that I enjoy. I probably should have had put them down in the notes. Big puts kind of his own really unique twist on the way he performs stand-up, and his latest special, which is available on YouTube, is brilliant, without a doubt. Other comics, let me see. The Eliza Schlesinger. Once again there, looking for Hail Mary there, because I couldn't remember. Who as well puts her own unique twist in the way she performs in her sets and stand-ups. Someone who's pretty much started off the podcasting industry, Mark Maron, who I actually seen in his live. I live in Ireland, so he came a couple of years ago before the pandemic hit. It was a pleasure to see him perform. I've watched the Maron show. I've seen all of his specials, and to see actually see a comic live on stage was a treat. At the time when I seen Mark Maron, he was recording for his stand-up special End Times Fun. So I always heard on the Joe Rogan podcast Joey Diaz talk about this as well, how they start with bits and they work on it, which is why they don't. This is something as well that I've, as I started doing more and more stand-up, that I learned myself, how to work bits out and stuff like that, how to formulate them, how to change stuff if it doesn't work, to try and make it sound better and stuff like that. So it's kind of very interesting looking back on this. Like people recording them when they do sets in comedy clubs, which is one of the reasons Dave Chappelle doesn't allow any phones at his shows. And so when the End Times Fun special got released, it was very interesting to actually have seen a comic do the bits and work on them and get them ready for the special. It was great to see that. Other comics that I like, Dave Attell, their bumping mics is probably one of the... I remember when I first watched the Bump and Mike special on Netflix. I was completely blown away. I had heard about Jeff Ross and Dave Attell before because they do roast and stuff. They used to show them on MTV back when MTV was actually decent instead of the horse shit it is now. All that reality TV bullshit. But anyway, I suppose it makes them money. But yeah, but back when MTV was great, used to have, the various celebrities roast. But, Jeff Ross and Dave Attell, they were always good at it. I think that they call Jeff Ross the chief command, the general of the roast or something. I don't know, something like that. It's a very funny title. One of the most unique shows in terms of comedy ever. It just completely changed the dynamic, and it was really fun to watch. The other comics that I enjoy would be John Mulaney. He comes across as somebody who can do a set on Saturday Night Live, but he has a way of presenting himself that's different to others, which I really enjoy. So where I do my stand-up sets is to finish that sentence, where I do my stand-up sets is in a place that no longer is around. It's now become the Halfpenny Bridge Comedy Club. I really hope to get in there very soon at some stage and go back and do a set in there, because like I was saying in a previous video, I started off there, so it'd be great to get back in there and start doing sets again. That would be great. It's a small room above a pub in the centre of Dublin City in Ireland. The pub is called the Halfpenny Bridge Inn, and the set itself is called the Battle of the Axe. It was established by a man called Tony Ferns in 1996, and it's hosted numerous Irish acts that have gone on to perform in TV, both here in Ireland and across the world. So it was a great pleasure to perform there before the pandemic. Hopefully, once this pandemic blows over, we can get back in there and do more sets, which I will talk about in later recordings whenever all of this blows over, hopefully soon. It's been difficult, obviously, with the pandemic to do any shows because they're all cancelled for the time being. The products that I'm currently using to record is this Mantis, which is my microphone. Yeah, and then I go on to just what I'm using to record it now, which is still the same equipment that I have, but like I said as well, I've gotten new stuff. I've gotten this microphone from Kieran from Plastic Cowboys, and then I have this equipment here as well, so I'll be able to route this in through the PC and be able to set kind of mess around with controls and that. That'll happen at a later stage. It's from Trust. The camera is also from Trust. It's the Vero. They're not expensive. The camera was, I think, €58 and the microphone was 38. So it's not overly expensive setup. But I find that it works quite well. I like how this camera looks with the shield and all. The microphone, not the camera. So those are the products I use to record. Get back to talking about more comics to enjoy. Chris D'Elia. What I really like about Chris D'Elia is the voices that he does. Certain comics have, like Gabriel Iglesias does, the woman voice. Oh my God! So that's always funny. But Chris That's probably the worst Fluffy impression ever. I forgot I did that at the end for, comedic value if you want.
The certain voice that he does is quite enjoyable for me. There's another comic who is famous for using the word cunt a lot, which made it more acceptable in the US, is Jim Jeffries.
I forgot about this first episode completely. I'm surprised YouTube didn't flag this video for that, because obviously that word is not the most liked. But yeah, that's oh, that's a good one.
Hails from down under in Australia. The great comic is Trevor Noah, who's the host of The Daily Show.
Down under.
His stories about growing up in South Africa and the craziness and the violence that South Africa was experiencing at the time, since he was born during apartheid, is quite interesting. I have a few friends from South Africa who have told me various stories about the place. While it's very unique country, and it's far removed from the land that I have lived in before and live in now. Yeah. I look forward to doing more of these episodes in the later coming days and weeks, hopefully years. So stay tuned. I will post the next one. I will try and post them once a week, probably. I will aim for Tuesdays if it's not possible. We shall see. But thank you for watching and have a good day.
So that's that. That's the very first episode ever. God, I look miserable in that video. But yeah. So we have 1 year under the belt at least. We'll see how many more years you get out of this. But thank you all for watching, and she'll see you all next week at some stage. And thank you for all the support in the entire whole year of this. Really happy, and I shall see you in the near future. Goodbye, folks. Down under.